Hello friends, welcome to King's Crux, and today we will not teach ophthalmology, but we will focus on teaching, not just ophthal, not just medicine, but in general. We will discuss on a very fascinating aspect of teaching, flipped classroom model. So, what is flipped classroom model? So, we'll understand what it is and how we can apply it in our teaching experience to make the students' experience better. So before I start things off, before I even tell what flipped classroom is, who is this discussion is intended for? Teachers who are in med schools mostly, because I'm being a doctor, I think I can connect well with them, and institutes of medicine as well. And not just these teachers who are in med schools, not just the doctors, but also instructors and educators of all levels will find something to get from this discussion. And anybody who loves to create an impact with their teaching will also love this. So now you know who is this for, and let us jump into this. So what is the flip? What is to flip? No, it's kind of a very nice term to add to it, but it's not a very easy to understand term. See, a traditional classroom is where the teacher takes a lecture for the audience and he gives a homework, and the homework is done later. Flipped classroom is a flipped one where the student learns something, he prepares for the class, and he comes for the class, and there is going to be a classroom activity is going to happen, not a traditional lecture, but activities. So I think it makes the thing very easy and clear. So again, this picture makes it even more interesting because there is a lot of work which happens outside the class where the student has to prepare for the class activities, and in the class the students apply whatever they have learned, and again outside the class they re-evaluate and review their learning. So most of the activities like happen out of the class rather than in the class. Now, something to add to it, teaching is a very interesting process. Traditional teaching often makes the students to sleep, but this flipped classroom model really instigates the minds of the students. Now this is a taxonomy. Now this is going to be a pyramid. Usually it's going to be like a triangle. Now they have inversed it because the students before the class, they remember, they understand the concepts. During the class, they apply and they analyze the concepts. And after the class, they evaluate themselves whether have they understood the concepts well, and they create concepts. So probably the most easiest part is remembering. The most difficult part is creating. So the flipped classroom model really encourages you to create. Creation, innovation is the ultimate product of any learning. Remembering is the basic idea. So when you can remember and understand a concept even before the class has started, then it makes things a lot more easier during the classroom to apply and analyze, and that reinforces the concepts even better. So yes, enough of the theory, and let us see how this works. Now, when someone tells me what is a flipped classroom, I think it's kind of a misnomer because a flipped classroom is not a reversal. It's not a reversal of roles where the teacher just observing and the student takes the class or student teaches. It becomes a seminar taken by a student. No, it's not so. A flipped classroom is an ideal classroom. It's not a flip. It's actually a misnomer. It's actually an ideal, the most ideal way of taking a class. There are three E's or three essentials of an ideal classroom. Any classroom for that matter. It has to be extended classroom, where the learning should start even before the lecture, should continue even after the lecture. It should be engaging, where the students should love to take part. The audience has to be in that classroom, should be not just physically present, even mentally present there, where the retention occurs by active participation of the audience. And most importantly, the third most important essential, it has to be entertaining. Classes have to be fun. So all these three elements are there in a typically flipped classroom model, which is the ideal classroom model. So before we jump into it, I think just there's some philosophy behind this flipped classroom or a classroom. Let's go a bit deeper. What should be a teacher's mindset? When a teacher is taking a class, when you are like when you start taking a class for a group of students, what should be your mindset? What should be your role? The role has to be a coach for them. So the idea is to be their coach, like Gary Kirsten, who successfully managed the Indian cricket team for a long time. You have to make them play. So The coaching occurs at one point. You have to make them play, make them engage, make them interact, make them form a team and let them play, and in the end let them win. So it starts with the training which happens before the class, and during the class they play it out, and after the class they win. I think this creates a perfect analogy or a perfect comparison for us to understand the further concepts which we will discuss in this video based discussion. Now, let us understand three levels of flipping. As I just said, there has to be some training. So you have to train the brain, or you have to prime the students about what a flipping is, about what the concepts you have to talk on during the classroom. So the idea is to make sure that they learn the concepts even before they come to the class, which is the most crucial work for any lecturer out there. Flipping the lecture in the classroom is the real testing ground, where we have to test the students whether they can apply and analyze whatever they have learned before the class. And after the lecture is done, we have to evaluate them, make them understand the importance of it, and reward them based on their participation and get a good feedback from them. So we will take each one of these steps one by one. Okay. So first is the level one, that is the priming your brain. Priming whose brain? Priming your students' brain. So how to make sure that students retain it well? Now, in a typical classroom scenario, I think I'll just bring me into the picture. Now, I am a resident here, so I have to work, I have to learn for my exams. And when someone gives me, when someone is taking a class for me and for my peers, say for example, a class on corneal ulcer, so the teacher should make sure that I come to the class prepared. So how do they make sure that I come to the class? Just by telling them, learn this, learn that? No, something more than that. That's the essential of a flipped classroom. So what is the best way to train the brain? Is it by sending them articles? Is it by giving them references? Not just that, something more than that. To record a video and send them that video of yours so that they can watch the video and they understand it. This sounds too much. I know you will be saying, okay, come on, please, this is too much for me. As a teacher, I have to come all the way to teach the students. Do you want me to take a phone or a cam and record myself before the video? Yes, that is what I'm asking you to, because a recorded video explaining the fundamental, not everything, just the essentials, the basic concepts of your future lecture, and sending them that video to your audience, to your students beforehand, will enable them to understand the concepts even better. Because the reasons are this: it's probably the most engaging way to prime or to train the brain. It makes the students to come prepared well, because no matter how much they read from a text or from an article, I think videos always are interactive. It also gives them a self-paced learning. Now you can ask me, why can't I give a link of a YouTube video of someone else taking a class? But will that equal your class? No. The most relevant video you can send regarding your lecture is to pre-record, okay, send them a video about your class beforehand, and that gives them a lot of confidence, and that makes you accountable for your lecture. So whenever you can tell them that, have you watched the video? Yes, I watched. Then answer this. You have an authority to ask them. They have a lot of responsibility there as well, because it gives them a self-paced learning. They can learn at their own pace, and it acts like a review material even after the lecture as well. So now we know why we have to record. Let's say what we have to record. Now, the idea is not to record every single point in the lecture, because that will be boring for students as well. But the idea is to record the framework of the lecture, the outline. Just give them a bird's eye view of what the lecture is going to talk about. Give them the objectives of the session. Tell them what you have to know before you come for the lecture. And I think from my perspective, explaining the basics will help them a lot, because when you can explain basics in the video, then you can just straight away jump into the important points or the proper subject and the advanced concepts in your actual real world lecture if you want to. So just make sure the basics are very short and precise in your videos. That is fine. The videos can be either a face-to-face teaching videos, or it can be a voice recorded PowerPoint, just like how I'm doing it right now. I think more than the face-to-face teaching, which requires a lot of equipments, the voice recorded PPTs are probably the easiest way. I won't say it's the most effective, but it's the easiest way to create a video and to create a very good content of teaching material. Now that is with the recording videos, which might sound too much for some, but I feel it's the most effective way. But the more easier way is to give them the articles or give them references, give them the materials to read. Now, the pros and cons are there. See, as far as the sending articles to them are concerned, yes, it will act as like an adjunct for the recorded video. That's very good. And they can have an actual learning material which they can print it out, have it for their future reference. But I feel too many articles will not do any good. We have to keep it relevant, crisp and concise, because not many take time to read every article which is being sent prior to them. So what type of articles can we send? In a typical medical classroom, before discussing a concept, before discussing, for example, a corneal ulcers, giving relevant short articles in a graded way or a classified way from basics to advanced, like what is the anatomy of the cornea, what is the pathology of cornea, then slowly taking them to the infection, then to the important advancements. Maybe not all articles can cover that, but at least trying to keep that in mind and grading them or classifying them will make the reading of the students a lot more easier. And it is better to highlight the key points in the PDFs. You can highlight the PDFs from your computers, and you can send those articles to the students so that when they open up, they can see what is the most important points which you think are important, which is very important, I feel, because as the instructor, you know which is the best points to highlight. And referring to a textbook for a comprehensive understanding is of ultimate importance, because articles will just give some gist or will give the latest advancements, maybe everything in a nutshell. But a textbook is irreplaceable. A textbook will start from the scratch. It will start from the basics. If the student is interested, or if time permits, referring them to a textbook which they might not know. We never know. You might think they might know this textbook offers this, but just pointing them towards a textbook, or maybe even better, giving them a PDF or an actual book in the form of a soft copy will be of great help. And this is a very important thing which I feel. Apart from sending the articles and textbooks, maybe if you can write out on a piece of paper the key essential points, or like a mind map, or like an idea concept, something which you can put it on a paper and you can photograph it and circulate it with your students, that will be amazing. Because by the end of the day, what we remember is the key points. Students have too much to learn, too much to work on, so they remember the essentials. And if you can give them an essential, if you can give them the gist even before the classroom has started, my God, that will be unbelievably good for them. And they can read and they can relate to the material, and they can be confident when they come for the class. And it's also like a cheat sheet. It's like a lifesaver. If the student does not have any time to read the articles or the textbook for that matter, he or she will always find time to read this cheat sheets and these mind maps, which are easy to assimilate, easy to read in a very short amount of time. So let's have some more priming ideas. What else you can do them? Make them train. Sometimes it's very difficult the students to train them because they will be very resistant initially. But if teams can be formed prior to the class, and if you can appoint or make some of them as a representative or as the leader of the team, you can ask them to prepare a small talk or a discussion of concepts. What do I mean is that you can ask them to prepare a very short part of your classroom. You can ask them to make them give some mini talks, which will really make the class more interesting, and they will be more prepared to talk. And yes, as I just mentioned, if you can't record a video, giving an external video link is always good, because yes, of course, they will not match your actual pre-recorded video sessions, but still, video on any day is better than a written document. So that is with it. And sometimes you might question, after me explaining about priming or training the audience before the lecture, do you think, why should I spoon feed them? It's like I'm telling them what to read, what not to read. I'm telling them everything. I'm even recording my lecture and giving them beforehand. Is this equal spoon feed? I'll say the big answer is a no, no, no. Priming does not equal spoon feeding, but priming is a wonderful way to make them more receptible in the classroom, make them accountable for what they learn, and of course it makes their lives easy considering the hectic work. And this comes from a resident as well. So I think just putting in their shoes will make it more easy, because the audience varies. You are listening to this probably because you might be an instructor in a medical school where the students might be free, or they might be having some clinical duties as well. So life is difficult for all of us. So just making their lives easy makes your life easy as well. Now we have talked about priming them or training them. Now let's take it to the battleground, that is our classroom. So in the classroom, what can we do? Now this is a typical classroom where the teacher talks, they sleep. But here, the teacher is not talking, he is engaging with them. They are discussing now. There is a group, there is a discussion, there is engagement, there is interaction, there is awesomeness here. So, what's flipping this classroom means? That's where the real challenge starts. When you split the teams with one team leader for each team, ideally in round tables rather than the typical classrooms, I think this round tables will facilitate an easier way to discuss and to interact amongst each other. And the moderator, that is you, the teacher, should take charge of the sessions and you just take things forward. And before I move on, let us spice things up. Come on. Now, teaching is a boring process, maybe for the teacher, and mostly for the students. Teaching is something which they don't want to listen to. It depends upon the teacher as well. But it's always nice to add some spicy elements, just jazz things up. Like you can announce rewards for each team if the winning team is going to get this trophy or some chocolates, anything for that matter. And you can give each team a name, or you can ask them to keep a name for their teams. It can be based on topic sections. For example, if I'm going to take a class on coronary ulcer, it can be one team can be fungal, the other team can be bacterial, can be viral ulcers, or a sports team if they want, a CSK or Mumbai Indians, whatever they feel like. And some students who participate with maximum interest, they can be awarded as the man of the class, like a man of the match. The idea is to have fun. Fun is the key. So some pointers before we plunge into the discussion. Before you assign the activities, we can always review the video lecture with the audience. You can tell them, have you watched this video? Have you understood this video? Fine. Then ask them, have you faced any difficulties in understanding the material which has been sent to you? They might say yes or no depending upon their interest prior. And you can give them some pre-assessment questions. You can just ask them few questions to test their understanding. How many of the students would have read or learned your material? It kind of gives you an idea. And the aim is to assist them, help them to apply whatever they have learned. Now, the last slide in the forthcoming slides, the last point in the forthcoming slides are very important. That's why I've highlighted here as yellow color, because assisting them to apply is the key. Again, what are the ways to flip in medical classroom? Now, you can have some case-based discussions, because I feel probably the best way to engage an audience is to bring up a case. That is, we talk about a concept, do we apply it? We have to bring up a patient who has an etiology, who has a pathology, and discuss the patient. And that is the best way to discuss a clinical topic. And that is the best way, I feel. But not always this is possible. In those cases, we can try different other ways as well. Now, for instance, when you cannot bring out a case discussion, you can extend your video lecture. You might explain the unexplained portions in the video. The tough topics can be explained. Or you can give a group-based activities. You can ask them to present some mini talks. Either way, the idea is to have a discussion, and the idea is to encourage participation from the audience. This is the key. So the previous key was to help them apply whatever they learned, and now is to encourage participation in the classroom. Yes, we have challenges. Just think about it. Now we have been students. Now I'm a student. I'm sitting in a classroom. Now when I am listening to a class, the most common thought which will come to my mind is that the teacher should not ask me any questions, because I fear that I have not prepared for the class. I would have had some work the previous day. I wouldn't have prepared for the class. So when the teacher asks me a question, naturally I will shy away from it. I will not want him to pick at me. And not just me, I think all of us can relate to it. When we were in schools, when we were in colleges, that we were naturally shy in classes, unless we are like those front bench, I don't know what do they call them, but unless you are a front bencher who is like all for learning, if you are kind of a person like that, then fine. But the rest of us, we were shy. We don't want to answer. But what I feel is, if I cannot answer, if you can give me a clue, or if you can help me answer something, that will be nice. You can just bring out the answer from me, and that will make me feel better also. And when the teacher has a mindset that if you do not talk in the class, if you do not answer, I will thrash you, I will punish you, that punishing mindset doesn't kind of help. It's not the right attitude, I feel. Maybe being in their shoes, when a teacher puts the as a teacher, when you put yourself in their shoes, think from their perspective. That is the best way to bring out the best from your audience. That is it. Nothing else matters. So there are a lot of challenges, a lot of resistance you might face while taking a class, but every resistance will be a challenge, and every student is your friend, is your teammate. You are the coach, you have to train them. So the coach mindset will help a lot, I feel. Now the classroom has ended, but just that discussions have been ended, but not just that. We have to go further. So what to do after the class? You can have a quiz, you can have a self-assessment, you can test whether the students have really understood the concept. So quiz is the best way to assess them. If not quiz, you can give them some self-assessment worksheets where they can answer the worksheets and they can give them back to you. And I feel this is it's kind of an a lost art. I feel giving a handout, I don't think teachers are doing it anymore, because a handout will really improve the quality of the teaching. Because when I take a class for a group of audience, I just want them to remember 10 points from the class, and if I can write them those 10 points, I can give them in as handout. That will be great. Maybe again, yes, as I said, handouts can also be given before the lecture starts or even after lecture starts. It's your wish, it's your desire to do whatever it is, but giving a handout is very important. And very often we don't do this, but only when we ask someone in the audience to summarize whatever they have learned, or you can ask each person to stand up and give one point what they learned from the class, and that really makes the class a lot more interesting. That kind of brings out something from the students. Probably that will make students to be actively participate as well. So the participation is not just ended after the class, like it's not just within the class, but even after the class, we want the students to participate. And yes, the fun part is announcing the winners of the winners and rewarding them with chocolates or something like that. And yeah, getting the feedback is very crucial. I don't know how many of us get the feedback, because either we think that we don't want any feedback, we don't want really anything from them because we are the best out there. No, we have always have an illusion that when we teach, people listen. It's an illusion. Okay. Because it's very easy to teach, but it's very difficult to listen. So getting the feedback whether have your classes affected them in some way or the other is very important. You can get the feedback from your students and from your peers if they're listening. You can give them a form, you can ask them for suggestions, because teaching is a never-ending aspect, just like learning. Yes, and that brings me again to this. Extending it further is important. It's not just after the classroom, it's outside the classroom as well. Just like how the student had to prepare for the class before the class, the students should also learn after the class as well. So having a review sessions once in a week or once in a month, sometime later, will have a repetitive learning, will cause more reinforcement of facts. And practical hands-on experience can be given in labs or clinics. Maybe after taking corneal ulcer class, I can take the students to the cornea department. I can show them the corneal ulcers. I can make them to scrape. I can send those samples to the microbiology labs. I mean, you get the point. You have to give them a real-world experience of how the concepts can be applied as well, and encourage them to apply the concepts ever after. So wherever they are, whatever they do, as doctors or as students, applying the concepts is the key. How many of us apply whatever we have learned in our school? I don't remember. Am I applying whatever I learned in math right now? No, my calculator does that. But medicine is different. Whatever we learn, we apply it. So encouraging them to apply the concepts is very, very important. And I just mentioned the previous slide, I'm saying it again. Just like learning, teaching is never ending. So constantly trying to improve our teaching is the ultimate thing to do. To end things up, just want to make it as easy as possible. So this flip classroom, just put it in the other way, PILF. So what is this PILF? Okay. Here we are P for prime. Prime the audience to interact and engage them, to learn effectively. And remember, fun is the key. So prime, interact, learn effectively with fun. So that is the crux, and that is what I want to try to bring out from this lecture or from this discussion. Like Gary Kirsten, who was a wonderful coach, and this was his ultimate reward. We won the World Cup. So understanding that teaching is teamwork, and a teacher is a coach, and training them, making them play, making them win is very important, because Their success is our success. Our success depends on our audience. And that is what I want to end with. Thank you so much, my dear friends, for listening to this. Hope you would have got something from a student's perspective, as well as from someone who is very interested in teaching as well. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.